Hey, this is Joe with the Recording Revolution. Going to talk about how to get wide guitars. How do they get those wide guitars? Whether you're listening to old classic rock recordings or something modern, typically you're hearing these big, wide, like goosebumps inducing guitars. But maybe you're not seeing that in your own recordings. We're going to talk about how to do that today. Also, if you don't have my production checklist, it's a single page, but it will help you think through when you're in the middle of a recording session and you're a little stuck as to what to record next. It's a kind of almost like a matrix where you can say, okay, I've got this and this. Oh, I need more of this. And then that will trigger ideas for you to go figure out what to record next. So it's not like a paint by numbers approach in that it tells you exactly what to do, but it gives you kind of broad creative categories to make sure that your music is pretty well rounded and gives you ideas of what to try next. So to get that, it comes with a video that explains exactly how it works. Go to recordingrevolution.com/checklist. It's completely free. Check it out. I think you'll love it. All right, so big, wide guitars. I'm going to talk about a couple of different ways to achieve that. But first, I've got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is how not to get big, wide guitars. And I don't know why this is a thing, but I see it all the time. And I have to constantly help people realize that this is terrible. Don't do this. So let's take a look at it. All right, here is a guitar. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of this verse. Simple guitar part. Now, you're going to notice that these waveforms are all stereo, but the sound that I recorded is pretty much mono. So just assume these are mono tracks. So here is the main, just kind of a rhythm, power chord guitar part. Classic, right? And now I understandably want to make this wide. And so one thing people do, and I'm just to reiterate, do not do this. Please, please, please do not do this. They'll duplicate the track. So they'll duplicate the track completely. So now we have this one and this one. They're exactly the same audio. They'll take the first one and they'll pan it left. Okay, so far so good. They'll take the right one and pan it right. And then they'll go do this. They'll take the one on the right and they will just slide it back in time a little bit. And the idea is, now that they're different, left and right, it's going to be stereo. And that's technically kind of true, but it's terrible. Here's what that sounds like. Okay, so it went from this, which was just very mono and up the middle, to this, which is technically kind of stereo. And you might be nodding your head saying, yeah, that's it. You did it. You didn't do it. This is terrible, terrible, terrible. And here's why. Listen to what happens when I put this in mono. So either by panning them to the middle or just clicking this mono button down here at the bottom in Studio One. Do you hear that? Listen again. You hear how it sounds thin and like I put some sort of weird effect on there, like a phaser, maybe a phaser. Phaser, you get it? It's in the name of the word, phase. We've caused phase problems. So we spend all this time recording these beautiful guitars, and then we intentionally misalign them, causing phase issues that give us the instant gratification of it being kind of stereo, but in the long term, it ruins everything. Because when you listen to the entire mix, those guitars are going to start to disappear. They're not going to respond to EQ the way you want them to. And there are situations where I've heard some situations where when you listen to the mix and it's feeling pretty good, but something's a little off to you and you hit the mono button, the guitars disappear entirely. Now you may be thinking, okay, who cares? Nobody listens in mono. Of course you listen in mono. Think about it. Do you have one of those Amazon speakers? Right? That's just a single speaker. Or maybe like me, I've got a set of Persona speakers that sit in kind of this cabinet thing downstairs with Bluetooth. We play music out of that. It's technically stereo, but it's all coming out of basically this much space filling up the entire downstairs with sound. I'm not hearing that perfectly stereo. I'm not hearing it stereo at all. I'm hearing it in mono. And if your tracks don't work in mono because you did these shenanigans, then you're going to listen downstairs in the living room and be like, where'd my guitars go? It's because you did this. So just remove this from your bag of tricks. No shame. Just never do it again. Here's what you can do instead. You recorded a wonderful first guitar. Good, wonderful. If you want it to be wide and to have that nice wide sound, it's called doubling. Not duplicating, but doubling. Go record that part again. So this first one sounded like this. Now I go set up my microphone, grab that guitar or maybe a different guitar, different amp, doesn't matter, and I record the same part again and pan that to the right. So here is my second guitar part. That sounds just like, what song is that? I bought my first real 6-string, bought it at the 5 and dime. All right, so it's a different guitar, I think. It's definitely a different tone, but when I play it with the first one, they're playing the same part. It's just power chords, right? But now listen to how great they sound. Even with that messed up note there, that works a lot better. Now, for a lot of experienced engineers, this is a complete no-brainer. Of course, that's how you get that sound. But for a lot of people, myself included, this was not intuitive early on. When I was first getting into recording, I would listen to these records and the electrics or the acoustics either would have this big wide sound, and the best I could think was they used 2 microphones and panned one to the left and one to the right and had like crazy different EQ on them to make them sound separate. I actually did that on like a whole album and it didn't turn out very good. I didn't realize that, you just record it twice and have one left and one right. So that's the quote-unquote secret sauce. If you've been doing the duplicate thing, just forget it. Play it twice. Now, you need to record typically to a metronome. Click track makes this part easier, and you may have trouble playing it consistently. That's great. That's a new opportunity for you to get better at your craft, and then this opens up all sorts of worlds for you of what else can I double. Now, if you want to go a little further, you can have a third part. I like to triple guitars quite regularly, where I've got one on the left, one on the right, and then one up the middle. If you do it right, it can work really well. So that middle guitar is kind of playing the same thing with a few riffs in between. Playing it sloppily and poorly, but still playing it. Now, here is the big piece of advice and kind of the bonus tip for you. You're going to do this, the first time you do this, you're going to be in love, right? You're just going to sit there with a smile on your face. I remember the first time I doubled things and thought, wow, that's a game changer. Then you're going to want to do more of it. You're going to want to say, well, if 2 guitars pan left and right sounds amazing, then 4, or 6, or 8, to 12, or 24 will sound even amazinger. Don't fall into that trap. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but typically the more guitars you add, just blind stereo, the less cool it sounds, and actually the more mono it can sound. Too many stereo things, you start to lose any of the distinction, it becomes one big blob of mono. So don't do that. Go with 2 and add some more as you go, but be careful not to add a ton, thinking it's going to make it sound bigger. A lot of times it has the opposite effect. Final tip for you, when you have guitars panned left and right, first of all, make it hard left and right. Don't be a wimp and pan it like 15 left and 15 right. Go all the way. Get all of that width out of your stereo spectrum. But then, for the tracks that are panned out wide, don't let them have too much low end. Typically, the farther away you get from center in the mix, the brighter the tracks need to be. Otherwise, it's just a weird experience. So, bass and kick drum up the middle, wide guitars are going to be a little bit brighter. That's going to help your mix in a number of ways. The bass will sound better if these wide guitars don't have a lot of excessive low end to them, but also having things being brighter as you go away from center is just a good general rule of thumb. All right, that's it for today. Go book yourself in your studio and double something and have fun with it. By the way, this works with keyboards as well as guitars. It's not just for guitar players, so even drummers can sometimes double things, and that can be really interesting. So go try it in your studio. Come leave a comment. Let us know how it goes. And if you don't have that checklist, it will help you come up with ideas like this. Just go to recordingrevolution.com/checklist to get your hands on this ultimate production checklist. Thanks for watching. See ya.